everybody. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to our session on EU's new industrial strategy. Will small states be squeezed out by the strategic autonomy ambition? First of all, I would like to start by thanking Mr. Tsomokos and the Delphi Economic Forum for having us. I am director of the Hellenic Observatory, and the Hellenic Observatory at the London School of Economics is a partner organizing, obviously, this session. I will introduce our speakers in a second, but let me give a bit of a context on the topic of this session. Obviously, there has been a lot of discussion about the EU industrial policy, industrial strategy, in some guise or another, whether we're talking about the green transition, artificial intelligence, the digital transition, and more recently, of course, on the issue of defense cooperation, the defense industrial strategy, and so forth. There has a lot that happened in the last, let me say, 15 years at least, moving for the European Union, moving from horizontal policies to actually developing industrial policy and an industrial strategy, trying to think vertically, trying to think about directing the economy, helping businesses make the right choices about their investments, about where the economy, where the businesses should direct the economy. We have what we call a modern industrial policy, but in doing that, we also, a critic would say, we contaminated this effort with big missions, mega ambitions in the European Union. And some of them seem very, very well thought, like decarbonization, the green transition. Some feel necessary, like digitalization. Obviously, you have, in moving in the green transition, you have to also have a move towards the digital economy. Some others seem a bit forced. More recently, the defense industrial strategy as it's been developed. Only a few days ago, we had the white paper on rearming Europe, and this is very much a response to new security threats and new developments actually on both sides of the European Union, to the East and the West. And then the question comes of, what is it in it for smaller states? For small states in the European Union, but also states that are, if you want, the European South, and they have different fiscal constraints, they have different productive capacities, they have different political way, if you want, in the international arena, inside and outside the European Union. Is the industrial strategy or the big missions of the European Union, are they compatible with the capacities of smaller states? Are they beneficial to the smaller states? Can they lift up the smaller states? Can the smaller states and the businesses therein participate in this revolutionary move of the European Union towards decarbonization, towards strategic autonomy, towards defense, security, independence, or some independence in that. So I feel very, very privileged that in our session, in order to discuss these things, we have an excellent panel to talk about these issues. Before I move directly in introducing the panel, let me also give the apologies for my colleague at the Hellenic Observatory at LSE, Professor Kevin Featherstone, who was supposed to be moderating this session. Unfortunately, a general strike on Wednesday in this country meant that he couldn't be with us. But I think he's watching us online, so I give him my regards online. So our first speaker is Ms. Elżbieta Bieńkowska, who is currently president of the Center for European Policy Studies in Brussels, but she has been commissioner for internal market industry, entrepreneurship and small and medium enterprises in the period 2014-2019. Our second speaker is Anna Abrunhosa, former Minister for Territorial Cohesion in Portugal between 2019 and 2024, currently member of the Parliament in Portugal. And then our third speaker, you must have seen him in a session or two already in this forum, Mr. Michalis Stassinopoulos, who is President of the Board of Directors for ElvalHalcor, the Hellenic Copper and Aluminium Industry, SA, but also President of the Board of Directors of the Hellenic Production Industry Roundtable for Growth. I will open the floor with a question. It's a general question, but I'll try to make it a bit more specific for each of you. And then we'll have time, obviously, for a few more rounds. So, Elżbieta, if I may start with you. We have the tariffs from Trump that call for more protectionism, also from Europe. We have, new allowance for debt issuing in order to support the defense industry in Europe. Have the objectives of decarbonization and the twin transition as it was until a few weeks ago. Is it dead? Is the industrial strategy of the European Union dead? Or is there something still in the European Union that can pull it off?
First, let me add something. For my whole life, my whole career before European Commission, I was dealing with cohesion policy and regional cohesion. I was 2 terms Minister for Regional Development in Poland, so the country that was and still is the biggest beneficiary of the cohesion fund. So that's why and I'm very regional by heart. Before I worked in the regional administration in Silesia in Poland, so that's why this subject is very, very close to my heart. The question was whether industrial strategy is killed. Of course not, and I think that the Commission and generally the European Union should really fulfill the expectation and the promises and the legislation that was voted. But I think that I want a little bit turn around the question. The problem in the European Union, and I was participating in a few panels here, and everybody repeats it, keep repeating. The problem in European Union is that European politics are national by nature. They are national. This is something that really, and it also, of course, affects the smaller member states. European Union, from my perspective as a commissioner of single market in Juncker Commission, and we started the European Defence Fund. And I will come to this later, but the problem is that European Union only counts economically, and if you want it to be a, I don't know, global power or to have a strategic autonomy, only counts when it is counted together, starting from 90 million people market of Germany to 500,000 market of Malta. They do not count globally. We count as a market and as a power of 450 million consumers. Yes. This is our power. So I turned around the question because I think that all of the member states have a share of our prosperity and should have a share of our prosperity because all of them has something to offer. We were talking before about the smallest, one of the smallest member states, Baltic. They have a super specialization in AI, in new technologies, innovation. So this is something what we should really support very much. But the basic question is, we are not united as we should be, facing all of the really awful things that are happening right now. Hostile American administration, war just behind our borders, and we are still national. I started with the European Defence Fund because, of course, it was very small things. It was, of course, it was before the war because we finished the Juncker Commission finished its term in end of 19. So it was before the war in Ukraine. But we started European Defence Fund as an industrial cooperation of the member states in defence sector. It was not really very much focused, and of course with much smaller money, but the basis was for the later actions and the later activities as the war started. But the basic idea behind this was that we are losing money procuring the same. But what was the criteria? Criteria was for European Defence Fund that we need few member states, smaller, bigger, medium size, with their specialities. This was the basic idea behind all of the programs. Of course, we have cohesion policy for the poorer member states, not smaller, but poorer member states. And of course, it's now in danger of taking money from these policies to defense. But this is another question. The main, from my experience, both at the national level, at the European level, the main problem in Europe is that we are not united as much as we could. Bolkestein Directive, focusing services at the single market was not even fully implemented. We do not have so much power to implement. On the Commission, I'm pointing myself as well, because I was in some points I was completely helpless. I was different member states. Of course, smaller member states are much more eager to have the single market because they need a market of consumers, so they need to expand. But it's the divisions are not going like east-west or south-north. They are really going in different directions in the European Union, unfortunately, because this is the time when we need to be united. And if the war and what is happening, in the United States will not teach us something, we will be nowhere in a few years' time. We will be, because, I was thinking about it, and I always, again, keep repeating this. We will finish as a museum where people are coming to see the nice cultural artifacts, not trading, not studying, not making innovation, but coming here because it's beautiful there. But it's not the way. We have all the power and all of the potential and all of the economic scale that we need, but we do not use it. Just as simple as this.
Thank you, Elżbieta. Just a quick follow-up. So do you think that the external threats are now creating more opportunity for taking forward both, if you want, the defense cooperation, and you mentioned the European Defense Fund of the past, let's say, but also in terms of the green and digital transition? Are they bringing us closer in achieving this?
Yes, I think they bring us closer, because I remember I was fighting for 5 years with the member states to start at least small discussion about common defense procurement. It's about industry. It's not about European army.
No.
It's about, it's about
Economy.
So it took me almost 5 years. I know how difficult it was. Of course, in the middle of this, also Brexit happened, and UK was definitely very much against any common defense, endeavors in Europe. So just as British left, it was much easier. But also then, it was first Trump, but also then I was still attacked that I'm weakening NATO, while our basic thinking was stronger EU in defense is ultimately stronger NATO, because 23 of 27 member states are members of NATO. Only 4 member states are not NATO members. So if we are stronger, if we spend money in a more reasonable way, because we're losing billions of euros, we were using, and probably now it's the same, we were using billions of euros annually because different member states, from smallest to the biggest, were procuring the same things completely separately. In such amount, they were of course, much more expensive. So that was the reasoning very much industrial and economic. It was before the war, as I said. And of course, something has changed, because member states and the European Council is now discussing defense topics and issues and different defense mechanisms. By the way, UK very much wants to be in, as you
yes. And it's a big player.
Completely contrary to my experience. But I still think that the national perspective is prevailing, unfortunately.
Thank you, Elżbieta. Let me bring Anna in, and talking about the defense industry is important, but I think I would like it to be also more general, also about the green and the digital transition. And the question I'd like to ask is, how are smaller countries who are not the most influential, perhaps, or the biggest in population size in the European Union, responding to these challenges, which are increasing, I think. It is the green and the digital transition, it is critical raw materials, strategic autonomy, but also defense.
Okay, thank you so much for the invitation. I would like to compliment Professor Kevin, and sorry for we miss you, Professor, if you are hearing us. Thank you for the invitation. I agree. Let me just go a little bit back. I think we can, in Europe, we can face the twin transition. We can also invest in defense because it's all about economics. And we can also, and small countries also can have a voice. For instance, the president of the council was my prime minister when I was the minister of Territorial Cohesion. That's one of the good things in the European Union. Countries have a voice, and we should avoid what you said, because we don't have a complete single market. We have many regulations. We should have a better single market, because the freedom of trade brings us wealth, and we know that wealth means well-being for our citizens, because us, politicians and not politicians, what do we want at the end of the day? That people live better. We want to do the twin transition because it's the right way of doing things, because we have to be sustainable, because our resources are finishing. So we need to face climate change, we need to be more efficient, we need to be more productive. So we need to do those investments. And during the pandemics, Europe gave us a good example of union and of articulation, because for the first time, Europe faced a health problem. And see, health is not a common policy in Europe. So we bought vaccines, we had a financial instruments for helping us. In Portugal, we have the recovery and the resilience plan. So we are using that amount of money, that is the solidarity of Europe, to build and to face the twin transition. And what do? We put companies, academia, we put municipalities working together, increasing R&D, and focusing. We cannot be good in everything, so focusing. That's why you should have a smart specialization strategy, and we should focus, not do everything. In Portugal, we did the smart specialization strategy, and we are using the recovery and resilience plan to have clusters, good clusters, improving R&D, the articulation between academia, companies, in order to have, of course, Draghi reports pointed it out. We do research, but then we don't have innovation in the market. That's why it is so important, this articulation. So, small countries matter. Small countries should focus, like big countries, should focus in what they do good. And we have to innovate more, because innovation means that knowledge has commercial value. If knowledge has commercial value, it means we produce more and better, and we live better. So at the end of the day, our citizens live better. That's the final objective, for us to live better, and for companies to have profits, of course, and pay good salaries. In Portugal, as in many countries, we have a problem that we cannot retain high-qualified young people. So we are using various financial incentives to attract talents, because without qualified people, we cannot have competitive companies. We cannot transform knowledge into innovation. It is our biggest problem to be attractive as a small country, because we could say we have good food, we have good weather, but young people need house, need good salary. So we are using a huge quantity of these European funds to become a country more attractive for young people that are talented, and we need talent to be more innovative and more productive. Because small countries, like big countries, we can produce a lot, but we lost the digitalization race because we grow less than America and China because we didn't specialize in technological sectors, those that grow more, those that pay more big salaries. And we have to be in the boat of the technological sectors. That's why we are investing in Portugal in clusters, and we are putting a huge quantity of fiscal incentives to attract young people.
Thank you, Anna.
And companies too.
Yes, so I mean, there's a question that I will address to Michalis and Stassinopoulos on the business. I want just to quickly emphasize the paradox of pushing for integrated Europe and then also using RRF money to bring our kids back, because then everybody goes back to their countries. Where is the mobility of ideas in Europe? But anyway, we're not going to raise this question.
But I'm talking about attracting people outside Europe. From India, because we are in our country, outside other countries.
Incredible. I would like to thank you very much. I would like to first thank the previous participants, the two participants, the two ladies, for their wonderful, very useful, and especially you, Anna, for presenting. It was actually a lesson in how a country can grow better. It's a lesson. You saw me a bit maybe agitated. It was because I admired what you were saying, which covered many sides of the growth model of a country that are not maybe obvious from the first moment. So I would like to say that I represent an industrial group, but an association also of industry in Greece, and that our group and our members, some of our members, are very important companies for the European supply chains. Greece might be considered a country that is not especially industrial, but some companies are proving that they are, in Greece can produce world-class materials for most supply chains, energy supply chains, and transport, sustainability industries, and we are very big recyclers and employing, of course, the standards, environmental, sustainability, and ESG, and all the standards that modern companies have in Europe, which, of course, is part of the European vision. So I would say that this period is waking up all of us in Europe, probably, I think, and the Industrial Renaissance Act was, of course, a first, let's say, declaration, which did not, at least to our experience, did not bring a lot of results. Now it is the time to really push for integration. I think that, of course, Draghi and the letter reports presented this need for integration, the huge advantages that it can bring, and also the importance of integrity, which goes back up, let's say, goes up to the European vision and the European principles. And this is not only in theory and ethics, let's say. It goes, we remember the word contagion, we remember the word failed state, we remember we had the very bad experiences in Greece, also experiences that influenced our people very hard, very much, the well-being of the people and the incomes, and it was very negative. So I have to say that when we hear about European champions and economic sovereignty and some
strategic autonomy and all this, yes.
All this state aid, selective, all these things, we are worried because we think, okay, the big countries are going to monopolize this, to take the full advantage of these policies, these plans, and this is where we are trying really to strengthen our voice, and we think that all the smaller countries have to cooperate to make their point it is, I'm sure, and okay, for Portugal, it was extremely successful with their growth model. In Greece also, again, I would say that we have these let's say, champions, national champions, who are also European, let's say, champions in reality also. But I would like to stay a bit in the coherence, let's say, in the coherence of the growth models of these small countries. Maybe some of these smaller countries have to be helped a bit in forming their growth model, because for various reasons, cultural, political, historical, various reasons, maybe the growth model, maybe they need know-how and some push. And this is for their good, it's not for their bad. And let me finish with, I think a good case study is the energy sector. Europe is not enough integrated. The Draghi report puts it very, very eloquently and to the point. And there will be, I think, tens of billions immediately when they start to integrate. So the integration is just a word, and connections and interconnections. Every interconnection is an agreement by basically two regions and two governments, or sometimes to lose also a bit in some things and to win the others, but in the end, for the common good and the growth, and they have to see it holistically, because it will help companies, their production companies. Maybe sometimes the electricity price will fall, and it might not be likable by some players in the market. But in the end, this is for the growth of the country. It's a growth, and the priority is this, and the smaller countries have a great opportunity in all these sectors to really help and support. And of course, as Elżbieta said, our strength is when we are one. There are many things that we could say, but the diversity, I think the region with the deepest, let's say, culture, the cultural, the wealth, and all these things. So yes, as a first, I think.
Thank you, Michal. Let me go to the second round by starting again with you, because you mentioned that some Greek firms are national champions,
yes,
and also European champions. There's a specific effort in the European Union to in creating these champions to have more participation through industrial alliances, but also these exemptions from state aid rules in the important projects of common economic interest, where at least 3 countries have to participate. From your business perspective, do you think, and obviously you said you represent a business.
Yes, yes.
Is it easy for Greek businesses or businesses from smaller countries to participate in the EPAs, to participate in industrial alliances, or is it like all technology-driven somewhere in Frankfurt and in the old blue banana of the north?
I would say, I'm thinking now. So industrial alliances are always easy and always difficult. It's not something that comes like that. So the environment has to be positive, and all this the greater integration will help in this. The leadership of from the center, from Brussels, towards practically, as I said about energy, because all these parameters like competitiveness and distortions will come into question and will come immediately in the discussions for industrial cooperations. But of course, the EPCIs are very important. Greek companies participate. I think that it's a very positive thing, but I think it needs to be even more stronger. I mean, and more wider. This framework of cooperations. Thank you.
Thank you. There is definitely space for more participation by Greek companies, yes, when looking at the data, which is not very easy. But on the point of the European champions, can I ask Anna and then Elżbieta 2 versions of perhaps the same question? For Anna, is there a cohesion policy-friendly way of creating European champions, in the sense that even without, even you know, if you manage to have every country participate into this kind of national champions, they will probably be in the more developed parts of, you know, in the national capitals and so forth. Can we have a territorially balanced version of industrial policy that will create European champions, but it won't concentrate everything into the usual places?
I'm not very, very prone the European champions, because the past tell us to be careful. So if you think about technological big champions, they started as a startup companies. So I believe in startup companies, because and even big companies should stimulate startup companies. And then in Europe we have a big problem, because startup companies, they start well, but then they need scale. And in order to have scale, they have to raise capital, and we don't have a single market
Capital market union.
We don't have a capital market union. And in some Portuguese companies that are wonderful startups, they went to America to raise money. They went to
Portuguese.
Yes,
from all
they
over
went
Europe,
to America.
not only Portuguese,
Yes,
but everywhere.
and most of them, I'm from Coimbra, a city in the center of Portugal that has a good university. So we have incubators. And we have small startups that have wonderful innovation, and those startups are a way of retaining the qualified people for their self-employment, and they can also hire people. We have an instrument in Portugal that is very interesting. We call it Tech Visa. Tech Visa helps technological companies to bring qualified people from outside Europe, engineer, everything. But after 5 years, company cannot raise money. So we should have a capital, or a venture capital, or risk capital that is an European. Because even for the defense industry, we are having the same problem, because it's all about economy. We should invest in defense because it means more R&D, and the R&D for defense we can apply in different sectors, like the aerospace technology, we are applying in different sectors. But we should coordinate, because we have redundancies. Like the Draghi report points it, we invest a lot in defense sector, but we do not articulate. We should look to the value chain in Europe, and many of our countries are importing from America, but we have the same products that are produced in Europe. So we have to coordinate and articulate the value chain. And spending more doesn't mean that we have more autonomy. Spending more can mean that we are duplicating and doing the same thing. So we should coordinate and articulate. We should look to the value chain and see, okay, of course we cannot distribute because we have freedom of market, but that's why Europe is important, to coordinate and to see where we can have investment, but not losing money, because we are all doing the same thing.
Yes, no, absolutely. We were talking earlier with Elżbieta. I think we were saying, like, if only we have a fiscal union and a political union, the problems would be resolved. But can I stay with that issue of champions? Because in a way, cooperation, coordination, common procurement, and so forth is all for integration, but the European champions are fundamentally, the idea of European champions is fundamentally against the single market. Not the single market, sorry. competition policy. So in a way, the European Commission is always in a dilemma. You know, we want the European champions, but we don't want anybody to dominate the sector. So
you remember the famous case of Alstom in France. That was the first merger was killed because of the state aid.
Yeah.
And it was again repeated many times that state aid rules must change, that we need European champions. We need companies like Airbus, where multinational, you know, common effort, common money, and really very competitive at the global market. So yes, the state aid rules should be changed. They were a little bit, they are a little bit easy now, more easier now, but it still needs a lot of changes. But we, for example, from the cohesion policy, for years, we couldn't, the big companies were excluded completely. And so we could finance from the cohesion policy only startups and only up to medium-sized companies, not more. The big companies were completely excluded.
We solved the problem with the value chain.
Yeah,
suppliers
okay. But you know, this is something, and Anna said this, that giving Portuguese example. But again, looking from Brussels on this, it was the same everywhere. Companies are really trying to find the money everywhere, starting from universities, then from region, from government, from Europe, and then that's the end. And then they are flying to the US and saying, they've been shown, you know, several venture capitals. So this is the first thing. The European Commission, few venture capital small funds were created with the European support in Europe. But of course, they are very scarcely reimbursed, and they are just few of them. I lost my thing that I wanted to say. But this is a very often situation. I observed it, for example, in the space sector for the satellites. We have wonderful small companies that produce very innovative, you know, satellites parts or even the satellites, but they are all financed from the United States. And this is while when you look at the savings of Europeans, they are much bigger than Americans.
Yes.
So the money is there. Why do we? And again, the capital market union. So these are really problems of which you must discuss at the very all European level, at the European Council, because again, this is my
yes.
This is
I'll
the
bring
things
the,
that I,
yeah.
this is the thing that I like to discuss, because
we're coming to a close. So we have the last round of 1 minute each, and I would ask the question: what do you want government to do? But I would ask you, what would you like the Council to do? I will ask Anna, what would you like the European Commission to do? And I will ask Michalis, what do you want the government to do, the national governments to do? So what would you like the Council to do in the capital markets union?
We lack of political will. Of course, I understand politics, although I was never a part of the party, any party, but I understand politics. And I know that we have year-by-year election in some member states. But we need a strong political will to make a next step, because with this external situation, you know, around us, we will not manage to be as strong as we could be, and to be really a global power, because it's very much needed. So we need a political will and political European leadership, which we really lack of now. And one last sentence, because you know I was looking at this title, New European. Will small states be squeezed out by the strategic autonomy ambition? You know, ask Baltics now what they prefer. So,
yes.
what they prefer, whether to finance defense or to finance, you know, or to be in the mainstream of the industrial, different kind of industrial policy. This is a question.
Absolutely.
Or even
the external constraint can
yes, and the question of security and safety.
But Anna, can I ask you then, this unity and leadership by, in the council, by member states, how can it be facilitated?
I'm a politician, but I don't belong to any party. But I like and I want to be a politician. I think every citizen can be a politician in the good way of the meaning. I belong to the socialist group, but I kept independent, and I think the Commission should solve the problems that the single market still have, should work for having a capital union, but I believe that the capital should be private venture capital from companies. This is cultural because companies earn money and they should use that profits to help other companies. But we need regulation. And another thing that I ask for the Commission is to solve the state aid rules, because they bring a lot of problems to innovation, especially
we need to
small
finish in half a minute, so
sorry.
Michael, no, it's not.
I think the Greek government should basically use maximum extroversion, maximum reception of all these signals from outside, all these examples from other countries, because we have left behind a bit the industrial strategy. For many, we have a past that is not very positive for this, and I think that they should stand for. They should be present in all the forums, in all the platforms for industrial policy in Europe, and try and promote this agenda for the active participation also of the smaller countries, and very careful moves with champions and different structures in Europe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much to all our speakers. We're out of time, but I take it that the small states are not squeezed out from the strategy. Thank you.